Hi, Jack. Hi, Jack. Sounds odd. Hi, Jack. I've taken a few notes, so I'm going to have to edit the hell out of this one. But remember, I didn't come knocking on your door. You started shouting out of your window. You threw the first punch. Allow me to see if I can land one back. For atheism. The very first thing you said in your video, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't want to show a clip because you might think I'm taking you out of context, so I'll just say what you said. So, you want to be strong and rational, but if you're an atheist and you say that's what you want, or you say that somehow atheism provided that for you, that makes no sense to me. And I'm not surprised it doesn't make any sense to you, Jack, because it's a pretty stupid way of looking at the situation. You get the cart before the horse. I hope you Americans have that expression. Atheism does not lead to rationality. It's the other way around. Rationality can, and often does, lead to atheism. I don't need to go over the quotations of the top scientists in the world where theism is very, very much in a minority. So the most rational people are the most atheists. It's not that atheism leads to rationality, rationality leads to atheism, quite often. Now, you call yourself an intellectual in this video 2 or 3 times, and you can't figure that out. Rationality and knowledge are not the sole property of atheism by any means. You could supply me with a long list of great minds responsible for electricity, Newton and gravity. You could say Michael Faraday, James Clerk Maxwell, fantastic minds. But the knowledge was lacking. The people that you're talking about, or the list that you could provide, wouldn't contain many names of people who were alive after the discovery of the DNA helix, or after the discovery of the Big Bang radiation. People who know this stuff don't think bearded guys can fly, or that invisible brains can shut up virgins, which, let's face it, that is the core belief of Christianity. You say atheism gives nothing. You're not the first to say it. It's not even the first time you've said it, nor will it be the last, because it's your pet song to sing to people, that atheism gives nothing. But atheism isn't the thing. Atheism is simply the byproduct of the main thing, which is rationality, figuring stuff out, being able to tell fact from falsehood. These are good things, Jack. And, as I said before, they often lead to atheism. It's all intermingled. You attack one, you attack all of them, and you don't sound like an intellectual when you do. I suppose I never really said it before, but understanding was always a big thing in my life. When I was a kid, I was determined to think all thoughts in the hope that somewhere along the way some things would ring true and reveal other things, and it happens. If you approach life like that, to consider all things, then sooner or later you stumble upon a thought which reveals clarity in other matters. Tsunamis. Now, I understand how tsunamis are formed, what creates them, what causes them, and I dare say that you understand them too, Jack. But you have a problem, because you also try to believe in an all-loving, all-powerful God, and you will never be able to figure out how such an entity could allow or cause, for nothing happens without God's will, right, Jack? You're left with confusion. You may understand tsunamis, but you don't understand how your God can create tsunamis or would inflict them upon people. That is a big confusion in your life, Jack. Now, having been a kid, I understand what confusion is, and I still encounter confusing things to this day, like you, Jack. But overall, I don't have very much confusion at all. And that comes from understanding stuff, Jack. And that's very much like peace. You say atheism can't give you peace. Well, on its own, no. But understanding can. It brings a sort of a peace. There's no other way to describe it. And sometimes along with that comes atheism. So sometimes atheism and peace do go hand in hand through understanding. Something, from the looks of things, you will never understand. Why do we value rationality? Why does it, this is even worse, why does it matter that a person is strong and rational? What you mean, rather than weak and irrational? An intellectual should be able to work that out one day. No, Jack, the reason you're not an atheist is because you don't want to understand anything. Well, you do. You wanted to understand God, but you're not going to be able to do that because of things like tsunamis and insects that do nasty things. So the one thing that you really wanted to understand, your God, you'll never understand. And you've probably realised this, so you've given up on understanding anything else, and you want to poo-poo anyone who does like understanding stuff. It's a bit selfish. Atheism has no explanatory power. I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. Wouldn't you allow yourself to explore the possibility that there isn't a God watching over each and every one of us, an awful lot of things become very clear. It's like saying that a flashlight has no explanatory power. It doesn't. You can talk to a flashlight all day long and it won't tell you anything or explain anything, but you turn that sucker on in the dark and you suddenly understand a lot more than you did before. Is it deceitful of me to tell an ancient Roman that Apollo isn't real? Hopelessness. One of your favourites again. Well, it depends. I mean, you obviously define hope as waking up after your death and seeing Jesus. To you, nothing else is hope. I think that's tragic. Why? What's wrong with you? Why is it Jesus or nothing? Why is it... Why, you know, we might have had lifespans of 5 years. Nature might have decreed that we only live 5 years, and we get nearly 100. It's just narrow-minded thinking, not looking at the other possibilities. Personally, my hope is with humanity. I hope we rise above our natures. That's a redemption, if you ask me, a true redemption, being better than our past, rising above those instincts that you touched upon. We might need tens or hundreds of thousands of years to figure out how to live good lives with the right controls, because we are animals. We do need some control. Anarchists, I have very little respect for you, merely because if you really want no rules, you're inviting hell on earth instead of working towards something approaching a very nice wildlife park. Not complete freedom, but the bars are so far away that most people will never see them. Hundreds of thousands of years, woo, that sounds like a long time. Crocodiles have had hundreds of millions of years. The only thing that can stop us is ourselves and natural disasters. And if you think praying to Jesus is going to stop an asteroid or a plague, rather than good old rationality, hopefully you'll never find out just how very wrong you are. No, God has never called out to me in a traffic jam or demonstrated his love for me. The only beings who have ever demonstrated love for me are my fellow human beings. That's why I value them so highly. Wouldn't want to live without them. Really wouldn't want to live without them. You know, these human beings, these filthy animals your God warned you about, are the only thing that makes life worth living. You say, all existence testifies to God. Some people think like that. But what I want to know is, where in these clouds and in the oceans and in the trees and in the stars do you see a cross? You say that you're talking about a loving God, and there's a time and a place to talk about the vengeful, genocidal God. Well, how very convenient for you, Jack, that we're not talking about that particular subject on this video. It's a bit like the old eggshell trick, isn't it? Well, in my opinion, the time and the place to talk about the vengeful, jealous, wrath-filled God is exactly the moment when somebody like you just wants to talk about a loving God. Oh, and one last thing. I learned long ago to never trust anyone who calls themselves intellectual. Intellectuals never call themselves intellectual. Oh, one last thing. Pick up a philosophy book, Jack. Maybe you should do a video of your top 5 philosophy books and what you learned from each one. I'd be very interested in that. You threw the first punch. Throw a second if you like.